Welcome to Monty's Gems, episode number 9.
Number
Niner
nine.
Niner.
One more for 10. We're almost
Yep,
there.
we made it to the ninth inning.
Almost double
Super
digits.
excited. Good thing it's not the bottom of the ninth.
Yep.
And the Yankees have 2 outs, and they swing at a terrible pitch,
And then
and they lose the
strike
World
out, lose
Series,
the
and
World
now it's
Series,
over.
and Dodgers win. That's rough.
Go back to spring training. Learn to play some baseball.
Yeah, learn to actually care.
What's that?
Learn to actually start caring about baseball.
Yeah. You think that's what it was?
I don't know. There's a lot of stuff. Dodgers wanted it. Dodgers just wanted it more, I think. Shohei's a good player.
Yeah. I don't know. I was really surprised with, man, like the pitching. I haven't watched baseball in quite some time, so
Yeah.
didn't really see the quality pitching that I thought that I would see. I was surprised that Judge was like an MVP in the regular season just to see his approaches to the plate.
Yeah.
Earlier this week, I remember asking you who the hitting coach was because I was just surprised that nothing had ever been said, or maybe it had, and he just was very anxious, very stressed out, or what. But it seemed like he was sitting fastball and he was getting fooled by absolutely everything else. And I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
just sit off speed and let the fastball go by you because
Yeah, it was rough.
we need you on base. Yeah.
It could have even been it's just the World Series and his nerves. Like he's human too. He's got emotions. He's on that big of a stage where that many people are watching. It's like, yeah, he's a professional player, but it gets to you sometimes. I could imagine. I'm not at that level, but I could imagine it could.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's how we all get with anxiety and nerves. There's certain things that can really stress us out, get us uptight. And I think it's all of a process, right? I'm sure. How old is he? He's somewhat young still, isn't he?
I think it's like his third or fourth season or something like that. So yeah, he's still
Okay.
young.
Yeah, so he's still young.
Yeah.
Has some learning to do. He's been to this is a second World Series or playoffs at least.
Yeah, playoffs. I know
Yeah.
for sure at least, but
I mean, even in our personal lives, right? So we grow up, the older we get, the more experience we get. There's more confidence that we have in things that we never used to have confidence in. I remember not really wanting to call businesses on the phone, and then you do it a couple hundred times, and now it's just like, okay, I'm not afraid anymore. I can speak clearly. And I'm sure when he starts getting up at the plate in the World Series, the only other issue is if he just keeps struggling and struggling and struggling.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's not a good thing.
Excuse anymore.
No.
Yeah.
So I think it's very relatable into real life, how we deal with things and how we improve and what the steps we take to be able to move forward. I think that's important. And that kind of goes into this week's episode where we just wanted to kind of step back, not so much have a subject, but have some real talk. I expressed earlier today to Jake that I don't know, there's been some struggles in my life, and I'm having a hard time feeling like I have much purpose and trying to step back, ask myself some questions, and to see how I can feel like I have purpose, how I have value, and how we work towards those things, I guess, is the biggest thing. In society, there's just so many different ideologies and philosophies that are out there, and it's easy to go to one and then go to the other. And I think when you're just grabbing at pieces and pulling everything together, you're making this mumble jumble mess, which it's cool that maybe it makes sense in your head, but when you really start putting all the pieces together, they don't fit because this contradicts this and this contradicts this. And so for me, it's been a process more about staying off the internet or online or Instagram, or just scrolling through stories. It's like this guru speaks, this one. It's like I just watched 30 different gurus speak about a whole bunch of different things, and now I'm like, well, what the hell should I be doing? Should I do it this way, And it's like, man, that's super confusing to the mind, especially when maybe we've had some difficult issues in our life, some struggles, some hurdles that we're trying to go over, that it's just like, oh, like, well, what should I do? Should I do it this way? And then you get stressed out, and then it just causes even more
stress.
stress. Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think for me, that's what I really started like sitting back and trying to be able to breathe and relax and say, like, what things in my life, even though I don't feel like I have much purpose now, what things in my life have brought me purpose in the past?
Mm-hmm.
The one big thing that's always there is playing baseball. I always
Mm-hmm.
felt like I just had a lot of purpose playing baseball.
Yeah.
One, because I love doing it. Uh, Two, it was because there was people at the games. I was part of a team. I love being part of a team.
Yeah.
And I, man, I would say that's the biggest struggle that I have right now is that I don't feel like I really am part of a team. That I don't really feel like I have a teammate who I can just go to war with and be with. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's like, okay, so how do I find a teammate, or how do I create a team of people who are there? But also, it's like, is a team necessary? Is it necessary to have to be a part of a team, or do we try to just find a purpose within ourselves so that we don't need to have all these teams or all of this acceptance around us in order to continue on and maybe have peace, mindfulness, and happiness in life?
Right. And I think it's something that everybody deals with. It's just I don't know. It's just a little behind the scenes, a little inside baseball. But we had a topic originally for today, and like you said, you texted me earlier, and you were like, "Hey, do you wanna switch the topic, and we can just be a little bit more authentic and be a little bit more vulnerable?" Because I mean, I've been struggling with something lately, and I said, "Yeah, of course." And then I mean, it's something everybody struggles with. Everybody struggles with something all the time, and then it's just what you're struggling with at the moment. And I think it's important to be able to be vulnerable and open up to what you're talking about, because we could talk about I don't know, we could talk about baseball, we could talk about conspiracy theories, we could talk about whatever, but conspiracy theories aren't the real us. I mean, we could be interested in them, we could be interested in baseball, but it's not who we are. And sometimes I don't know, I feel like sometimes we could just use this podcast as like therapy almost, and just talk and just get our ideas out there, because sometimes it feels like you don't have a voice almost, you know.
No, yeah, I 100% agree with that. And I guess the biggest reason that I came to you today is I want to do some real talk, because for me, it's important to be able to share where I'm at with someone else
Mm-hmm.
instead of letting these things just ruminate in my mind. Um, and so I will also share with you that throughout most of my life, I've had a teammate or been a part of a family to where my mind has always been able to be active, to go watch TV with my dad
Mm-hmm.
or be around my brothers and sisters,
Right.
and to not really ever have to go deep within myself, sit out on the couch all by myself, and just sit there and think, like, what does Chad want? What makes Chad feel good? How have you felt purpose? Where are your struggles? And so I've almost always had someone who I can confide in or ask questions to, and I don't have that really anymore. And I think that's something that's important in this process, that you have two parts of a process to where you try to find purpose in life, you have happiness. The one is that community who is there to support you. And what that community looks like, it's really important that we all find a community that looks like this, where you have someone in your corner that you can be vulnerable with, that you trust to share anything at any moment in time when you're struggling, that they're there to listen, that they're not necessarily there to give advice or to give tips or to tell you how you should act. But the important thing in this is for them to ask better questions so that the healing, the process, that you can come up with the answers and work through this on your own. The second part of the process is to be able to be over there and be okay by being alone and asking yourself these difficult questions, to working on that self confidence all by yourself and not having to be told that you're great or that you're awesome, or for someone just to encourage you, but to actually feel it deep within inside of yourself, and then to be able to live that. That's where true accomplishment comes. In the last 11 months, I've been on my own. And while there's been some really, really difficult times and like feeling alone, there's been power in who I've became through that. In being able to sit and maybe cry about myself, ask myself deep questions, but to not need someone to tell me that I'm good, and that to not have to feel accepted by someone sitting next to me and always being encouraging me and always talking me out of my sadness or my anxiety, but to be able to sit there and to feel it myself. And it took a long time, dude. It took a lot of months of just feeling sorry for myself and being sad and feeling like I needed someone, and then searching out for that someone, and that someone never coming. And so at some point, I was able to realize that I got to go about this on my own, and that I have to figure it out, and that if I sit here in this position and I continue to do what I have done, that I'm not going to get anywhere. And so, in order to progress and to move on and to not be able to sob or always, and to have less and less of these sad times, that I speak to myself and I look more positively on my life. And I stopped looking up at what I didn't have or where I wanted to be or where I wasn't. And I started just really trying to enjoy what I did have, and where I was at, and continuing to try to make laughter. And those moments, that was something that's always been key to me and in my life, is creating laughter. Um, and so that's where the two sides of this are really important. One, to have that person in your corner, that community. And that's where I feel like this podcast, I wanted this kind of to be tonight, for you, if you had to share anything. And for me, if I had to, whatever it was to share, is to have that community aspect. Um, because there's a lot of growing and healing that can come through someone who's a really good listener and asks really good questions and doesn't sit to try to give advice.
Yeah. I think, I mean, as you know, I've had some difficulties in my life, and used to be when I was younger, you were always there in the house or whatever, and I could just go to you, and I don't know, I was never really the talking type. Like, I would kind of keep stuff to myself. I wouldn't tell mom and dad. I wouldn't tell any of my siblings. I wouldn't do anything like that. But uh, now it's kind of like, as I've grown up, as you've moved away, I there have been moments where I've called you and it's just like, look, dude, I'm having a shitty day. I'm having a hard time. Can you just like set aside a couple minutes for me to talk? And it's always been, yeah, of course. Like, you're my brother. I love you, and it's there's something so impactful about that. It's, I don't know, just that feeling of, I know that if I have something that's on my mind and I say, look, Chad, I got to talk about something. It's, you don't have to talk back. You just listen, and that's enough. And it's important to have that person. And when you don't have that person and you're going through everything like that, it's very difficult. So I know that, and I appreciate you for always being that person for me. And it's something that I'm working on continuously, because I never brought anything up like that. So it's very important to me that you're the oldest brother, I'm the youngest brother, but I feel a very tight relationship, and That's something that's very sacred to me. That's one of the reasons why I want to do this podcast. It's like I saw us communicating less and less, and all of the memories of what we used to do, whether it was driving backwards in a cemetery where you acted like an old grandma or whatever, and every time I tried to get out of the car, you'd speed up and be like, "Oh no, 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 don't get out!" And it's just, I don't know, stuff like that, and I've, I don't know, I just missed that. So a way for me to reinvigorate that was, hey, do you want to start a podcast? And within like minutes, you were like, oh yeah, of course. And it's like, what do you want to do a podcast about? It's like, I don't know. We just get together and talk once a week. It's like, okay, yeah, sure. It's just, I don't know. It's something that I missed because it's like you would always come into my room and bug me, not really bug me, but I don't know, you know how you are with our siblings, like you say stuff and say stuff and you poke their buttons and see how far you can go. And I don't know, it in the moment it's like, oh, this is so annoying, this is so annoying, but when you don't have that there, it's like, oh, it's, I kind of miss that, you know, like, I don't know. when we would always play when we would always play Call of Duty in my room together, and you would always come in and you'd be like, "Can I play? Can I play?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And then we would sit there and talk, and then we'd play together and whatnot. And that was super fun. And then that kind of stopped, and then I don't know, you kind of moved away. So it's just something that I was missing. So it's like, yeah, I of course I want to do this podcast. I want to be closer with you. I want to be closer with everybody. But something I there's a saying. It's like if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. You're never staying the same. And that's something that I've kind of struggled with lately. Not necessarily lately, but just in the past year, past couple years, whatever. It's like, what did I do today to make myself better? What did I do to make somebody else's life better?
Yeah.
But I don't know, sometimes I struggle to find a good answer to that. And then something that I come home and I ask my wife, it's like, what was the best part of your day today? And then we talk about the best part of our day. 'Cause it's like, even if our day was terrible, it's like there's a silver lining to every day. It's like, whether it's coming home from work, I didn't like work today. So the best part of my day was leaving work. It's like, well, at least you got to leave work and come home. You don't hate being home. And it's I had this really funny conversation today, and let me tell you all about it. And it's just being grateful, and it's, you can take the little things for granted, I feel like, and I feel like I do that a lot, but I try to remind myself of, you do have something to be grateful for, just it's not what you were focused on today, I guess.
And I think a lot of it has to do with the expectations that we set, maybe for the day, for our lives, for our friends, for our family, for our partners, for our spouses. It's just like we create these huge expectations of what we believe that happiness will look like, that peace will look like. And then, and I think Isaac and I both going to Disney, I had big expectations about what Disney would be, and I think he did too. And instead of just going to Disney and allowing Disney to impact us and just walking through Disney, and I think a lot of it has to do because when something's that expensive, it's just like,
Yeah.
dude, this better be a
This
lot
better
of
be
damn
good.
fun
Yeah.
because I don't want to come that. You know what I mean? It's like I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to come that much out of pocket, and so, or it's like you only get one vacation a year, and then you plan it out and you go somewhere. It's like it better not rain, or this better be really really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's not, it's really really unfortunate because we've created these high expectations because we want, and maybe sometimes that has to do with just the normality of life that we get stuck in maybe a job that we don't like, and instead of getting out of that job, we use these weekends and these vacations to make us feel accomplished. But when on that weekend you don't go and win the golf tournament that got you away from your job and that brought you happiness, then you start throwing clubs and then you're pissed off, and then it's just like you go back to work on Monday. It's like, oh, I got.
Yeah.
It's like, I think, man, a lot of it really has to do with the expectations that we set. And that's something that I've really, really learned, especially when it comes to maybe, relationships and whether it's relationships or family or anything like that. it's not only that we set these expectations, but sometimes, especially when it comes to people, we don't communicate those expectations with the other person, and we expect them to understand what our expectations are, and then when they don't, we get sad about it, or we get hurt, or we get frustrated and upset. And it's just like, well, man, like if you at least communicate your expectations, they can come back with a response, and then you can maybe work on those expectations, maybe lower them a little bit, because what you're asking is just too high, it's too asinine, like I can't accomplish that. And it's like, yeah, you know what, I can't. And then, well, what are your expectations? Like, oh, well, you have expectations that I'm not meeting, and I didn't even realize that. So, oh, okay. uh, and I think with that's something that I've really tried to work on, is having goals and aspirations, but them not so much being more so action driven. Like, if I do this and this,
Mm.
instead of results driven.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
oh, I want to go to Disney, and I want to ride every single roller coaster, or it's just like, no, I want to go to Disney and I want to laugh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, like, and there's so many things that you can do to
Yeah, yeah.
laugh. You know what I mean? Like, it's so easy to laugh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think another one of those like action-driven things, it's like I used to, I don't know, when I was working at the rat farm, I kind of let my health go. I was just kind of eating, I don't know, I didn't care what I was eating. Wasn't really exercising a whole lot. I would come home and I would play video games a lot, and I got up to like 205, 210 pounds or something, and it was just kind of
Oh,
like,
oh, wow, okay.
yeah, and it was just kind of like, I don't know, I kind of let myself go health wise, and it's just, it took me one day, I was just like looking in the mirror, and it's like, dude, wow, like your chin, your face, your cheeks, it's just a lot different than it used to be. And then I kind of actually took initiative, and I lost a lot of weight pretty quickly just based off of what I was eating, and I was exercising, and I bought a bike and went on bike rides and went on runs and went to the gym most of the time. I tried at least 3 times a week or however many times. It didn't really matter, but it was
Yeah.
just getting started, and it's just goals like that. And I feel like setting goals like, oh, lose 10 pounds in 2 weeks or whatever, rather than just get up and just go to the gym today, or just go for a walk today, or something. And it's part of that Atomic Habits book that I read, was it's the hardest part of something is starting it. Like, whether it's going for a run, it's the first part of a run is getting up out of bed, lacing up your shoes, and leaving the door. After that, it kind of all falls into place. And once you start running, it's like, okay, well, I've already committed this much, so I might as well just keep going. So you actually proceed with the run. But if you don't get up out of bed, if you don't tie your shoes, the run will never happen. And I feel like, I don't know, just the expectations we set on ourselves is just so unrealistic, especially with social media, because it's so easy to compare yourself, and you see all the things these people are doing, or it's, I wanted to start this thing, like I wanted to start my own business a year ago, and looking back, if I started my business a year ago, where would I be today? But it's like, you didn't start your business a year ago. You don't have all that progress, but what can you do to make it a year from now? Oh, look what I did a year ago, and look at where you don't have that moment of, man, I wish I would have did it. Man, I wish I would have done it. It's just, I don't know. You just have to find what is motivating you, what makes you happy, and do that. Just,
Yeah, and I mean, just like you said, social media is you know, I think sometimes there's a lot of positives that can come from it, from being able to encourage you to be able to connect with the world.
right.
But there's also a lot of issues that it can hurt. Like, if there's so many different things being said, where sometimes your mind just gets all jumbled, like, who should I listen to? Or if I'm going to start comparing myself, like, if you're
Yeah.
comparing yourself to others, which should never really happen. Really, we compete with ourselves, whether you're
Right.
playing in the World Series or whether you're going to be a property manager. You're not competing against other property managers. You're working to learn to be better than you were yesterday, today, and better tomorrow than you were today. Same way with the World Series. Aaron Judge, he struck out. Okay, so his next plate approach, did he learn anything from the previous one? Especially if it's the same pitcher. If it's not the same pitcher, it's if it's a new pitcher. Were they watching video? Do they know what his go-to pitch is? How did he pitch other similar players to who he was? So going back and taking those steps so that he's not comparing himself to like Barry Bonds. Like I can't be who he was. Like there's no sense. Or Shohei Ohtani on the other team, or Freddie Freeman. Like there's no sense of doing that. Compare Aaron Judge to his last at bat, his last strike, to who he's going to be next inning and next plate approach. You know.
I mean, especially if you're like a professional athlete or something like that, it's like you, at that point, you kind of have to stay off social media. If you go on social media and it's like, oh, what are people saying about the Yankees game today? And the first 10 people are like, man, Aaron Judge sucks. Aaron Judge sucks. It's like, oh, okay, well, there goes everything that I was thinking. And then you see that one person, it's like, man, Aaron Judge didn't play good today, but he's still my favorite player. And I hope he does better next game. But it's like, he doesn't see that. He sees Aaron Judge sucks, Aaron Judge sucks, Aaron Judge sucks. So that's all he thinks. And especially
Yeah,
when,
that would be hard, man.
yeah. And I mean, at some point, you just have to, I don't know. I don't know.
I
Social
know
media just,
even at an entry level, like just us, like when some people say that at maybe a high school baseball game, or you hear parents saying, "Oh, well, why was he hitting this?" And it's like,
yeah.
yeah, like oh, like, you're right. Like why was I hitting that? Like
Yeah.
I'm so terrible. And it's just like, dude, like this guy's getting these comments by the thousands. Like
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
And something that was interesting. Go
You
ahead.
go ahead. You go ahead.
So we were talking about like having these conversations back and forth, and what's been really interesting is our personalities, and I think how we heal from things and how we enjoy sharing things. I enjoy talking about it, letting it out, like expressing my feelings, my emotions, and crying from it. Where when you've had a hard day, it's you really appreciate just being able to talk about anything other
Mm-hmm.
than that thing right there.
Right.
Like, hey, like talking about, can we talk about baseball? Can we talk about this? It's about being able to have some type of maybe closeness
Mm-hmm.
with someone who you trust, and then talking about something totally other than that thing to
Yeah.
possibly get that off your mind.
Yeah.
So I would kind of like to hear, is that something that is a healing process, or is that just something that helps you be able to get yourself out of a bad spot so that you can then go back to that spot later and then be able to really work it through your mind and do some healing that way?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. It's I I often tell myself it's like if I have a hard day at work, don't come home and don't bring that home, and it's just the energy. It just throws all the energy off. 'Cause it's like if my wife had a good day at work and I had a terrible day at work, and all I do is complain about my bad day, 'cause then it's like there goes her good day and turned into my bad day, and it's like it's all we're talking about. And I don't know. I think yeah, it's a lot of me not really wanting to talk about the hard things probably because I don't know. I'm just still getting used to talking about really my feelings at all. So I feel like I would rather talk about something that we have in common or just something positive to cheer me up if I'm having a bad day and then I'll go back to that with myself and kind of I don't know, go over the situation, I guess. So I guess it's a little bit of healing, it's a little bit of kind of pushing it down, pushing it away, but yeah.
And that's really interesting because growing up as a young kid, I was always very easy to maybe share my feelings, and it was something that sometimes maybe I got made fun of about or anything like that. When you think about sharing your feelings, what does that make you feel, or what feelings do you have that kind of maybe closes you off to doing so,
Mm,
or what is it?
I don't know. I guess it was just I don't know. It was just hard for me to be vulnerable, I guess. Not for any reason in particular. It was just, I don't know. Maybe just growing up around a bunch of older kids and me giving myself the idea, not even necessarily that anybody else gave the idea that nobody cares about my opinion, but I just see all these older kids and their conversations, and it's like, I don't know. Maybe I just felt that nobody really ever wanted to hear what I had to say, so I never said it. And then that kind of
Hmm.
snowballed from there, I guess. I don't know.
That makes sense. I would say that's something that I've dealt with in life, is maybe feeling that the things that I have to say aren't important, especially if you're group, sitting around a large group of very intelligent people, or who are really intelligent on the subject matter that you're there to meet and talk about. Where oftentimes I've just sat there and tried to be a sponge, and I think that's something that you've always just done. But in that process, that's where I really, really learned how to ask questions. And I think I talked about this a couple weeks ago, or one of the previous episodes, was that's what really helped my learning, is when I was able to ask the questions when I didn't understand things, that really helped me to learn, and then to formulate my own opinions and values and belief systems, and that.
Yeah, and that's something, like I said last week or 2 weeks ago or something, that I don't know, I've been kind of getting better at it. Like I'm not the person anymore where I'll just be like, yep, I mean, sometimes I am, but sometimes I'll like ask more questions and get kind of more in depth into a conversation, like kind of how a conversation should be, more back and forth rather than it feels like they're just talking to somebody who's listening but not conversing back, I guess. I don't know, it's just kind of a work in progress. I've been I don't know, I've always considered myself really shy, and in high school it was no different. Like growing up in a private school of 20 something kids in my class, and then going to high school where there's 1,000 kids there, and I was just like, dude, I was scared to go to high school.
Really?
Yeah, like I don't know, I didn't know how to get around anywhere. I didn't know any of the people, all the kids in my class. Like I had one class with them maybe, but then it was just, I don't know, I had a hard time meeting new people, I guess. And I had previous experiences with people from the athletics side, like from other little league teams or Kofax or whatever for baseball, or maybe if we played basketball for the middle school. But outside of those people, dude, I didn't know anybody, and I was just, I don't know, I was scared to go to public school.
Going back on that experience, if you were to be able to decide like how you set your childhood up for success, what would school look like for you? What would you have put yourself in?
I don't know that I would change it. I mean, school was, I don't know, I liked school. I didn't like school, but it was probably the best experience that I could have had. I had a tight knit friend group that was very similar interests to me. Like, I had a couple of very close friends, and it was just a good class, and athletics was very competitive, and it was just, I don't know, that transformation from 26 to 1,000 other kids was something that was very hard to me. And I guess I don't know how I would have went about that any differently.
No, that's really interesting, because I would say I shared in that exact same thing, even though I was heavily into sports and I knew a lot of different people. When you go from 26 people, and I think I was still even shy within that 26 people group. I wasn't the most outgoing of my class, probably one of the more reserved. And then you go to a bigger school, and it's almost like you don't know how to talk in public. You don't know how to like put yourself out there or introduce yourself to other people. Um, and then in the dating world, you don't really even know what that's like.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you've had like two girls in your class of
Yeah.
26. I said you've been there, so that's been the only two options. And then like that was part of my move down here to Miami. It was just like, okay, in Sturgis, Michigan, I know what the moral standard is. I know what this, and now it's like down here, it's a big city where if you watch the news, like there's just there's just 1,000 times, well, more than 1,000 times more people than there are in Sturgis. So yes, people are going to get shot on a daily basis. Yes, there's going to be drug seizures. Yes, you're going to have married people who are swingers, and your mind's going to be. It's like you turn on TV, and some of these fictional TV shows that you watch is like, oh, like that never happens. It's like, well, no, it does.
Yeah.
And when you're in a big city, you see it all, and that's just like, it's just a huge like experience. But for me, inside of maybe moving down to Miami, there's been a lot of growth in terms of becoming a more maybe confident and more powerful by being around more people and realizing that I have to step up, that the competition is bigger, that I have to be able to put myself out there. And that was like the same way with high school. And I don't think that I did a great job of that. And it would have benefited me more to put myself out there more. But I think it was a natural fear that we all have of just almost wanting to, and I think I still sometimes I gravitate towards this. I hope someone will help me. I hope someone will give me the opportunity. I hope someone will introduce me to these people. I hope someone will give me a job. I hope that by doing the current job the best of my ability, and I'm just a hard worker, that instead of trying to create it myself by how I speak and negotiating with people and talking to people and introducing myself to people, that it will just come to me. And I think sometimes maybe that comes from a religious perspective too, of that if we're great at good Christians or whatever, that God will grant us those opportunities, and not us having to like really go out of our comfort zone to get them.
Yeah, I feel like just yeah, like you said in high school it was when there was 26 kids, like I wasn't the outgoing one even in that group. Like I was one of the most shy kids in that group, and I was in a very smart class, so it felt like every time, I don't know, I always felt like the stupid one in the class per se. And then I went to high school and it's like, okay, not everybody is that wicked smart. Like not
Wow.
everybody's like that. And I don't know, it was just kind of maybe that I don't know, even from like a young age just trying to compare myself to all the smartest kids and all the whatever. Like I feel like athletics was always my forte, I guess. So that's where I strived. And then I was always really shy. And then in high school, there was speech class. I don't know if you ever had to take speech class or anything like that, but it was, I was always super shy. But when it came down to it and I had to give a speech in front of a bunch of people, I was very good at giving speeches and public speaking, even though I was very bad in social situations. Like I was very socially awkward, I would say, but presenting myself on a topic that I was well informed on, I was very good at. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like just my experience in public schools, it was very, I don't know. I was very shy.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I'm very appreciative of the private school system and the value
Yeah, yeah,
system
yeah.
that I was given. And I think like the one-on-one instruction, also just kind of not being overwhelmed with all the promiscuity and maybe drugs and all of that stuff, that I felt like maybe I was a little bit more, oh, what's it called when like parents kind of sheltered. And sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing. However, I wish that, I think, I lived at home until later in life. And I think just this process over the last 11 months, me having to go out and be completely 100% on my own, having to provide for myself, um, it's been really, really eye-opening into how one does that without having to rely on someone else, and not having someone else to rely on, having them be there, to have a way more structured life. And I don't know how people go out and they party
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and then they like play video games, and it's like, how are you doing your laundry? Like, how are you getting your groceries? And you see these people like, hey, they're going out to eat, they're spending a lot of money, they have car payments, and I'm just like, wow, like
Mm-hmm.
this is grown up life. Like, it
Yeah.
gets real, but it's like that realness is what gives us more confidence, gives us more stability, and it causes us to grow. So I wish that I would have been able to come to this realization much sooner, and pushing myself to do those things, even though I was scared back then. And the reason I was, and because I was scared is why I didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
That the doing it, man, it helps tremendously.
Yeah, that's just like I don't know. You look back at that's just like another thing. You look back at the stuff that you wish that you would have done, but you never did, and it's just like, man, screw that. Why wait for that moment? Like, if there's something that I want, or something that I want to tell this person, or something I want to ask this person, just do it now. Like a couple weekends ago, there was a job site that I was at, and one of the kids that I went to high school with, he has this like landscaping company and whatnot. And landscaping is something I'm interested in. Maybe someday down the road, I'll venture into that more. But I was just like, I just rather say this now, and if you don't, whatever. But I was like, if you work on the weekends and if you ever need help, just let me know. I'm up for the experience, and I want to learn and maybe expand on this on my own someday. So rather than I was thinking about it like the whole time I was there, like should I ask him? Should I ask him? What if? But it's just like, man, who cares? Like just go up and do it. What's it gonna matter if he says like, oh no, I just work Monday through Friday? It's like, oh okay, whatever. But it's
Yeah.
just like I don't know, just taking that first
And
step.
I think that's one of the awesome things about living in a big city, is that sometimes when you have a small town, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of good that comes from a small town and the community, but sometimes just the the talking about people and the criticism, where you get in a big city, nobody really knows anybody and nobody gives a crap
Yeah.
because everybody's competing for themselves to try
Mm-hmm.
to just survive. And so it's like, if you have an opportunity to go talk to somebody and you feel like they have a job over there, or this person looks like someone who could possibly be your friend, like, don't miss that opportunity. You just got to go say it. And, the more you're around that, and I think the more you're lonely or maybe you're not successful, you realize, I just got to put myself out
Yeah.
there and,
Yeah.
and realize what that takes.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
mean,
then maybe go ahead.
it's just as simple as just doing it. Like put yourself out there. But it's so hard to take that first step and plunge in accepting like, okay, I'm not putting myself out there. I need to start. And it's just simple as that. Just start doing it.
Yeah, to tell you the truth, Nike slogan of "just do it"
Yeah.
is very, very powerful if you can completely grasp it, and take it to heart. And every small approach that comes into your mind, every small thought that you think, every small insecurity is like, I don't know. Just do it. Just do it. And I'll take it even a step farther. Just fail. Just fail.
Mm-hmm.
Just fail. Just make a mistake. And I think that was something we grew up. I think dad was a big perfectionist, and it was like never do something wrong. And I almost got scared of making mistakes to the point where it was debilitating. And I was so afraid of making mistakes that I didn't try things. So I never really got to fail and to progress and to progress. And so it's now in adult life where I'm realizing that ask stupid questions. You know, just
Mm-hmm.
just struggle through a podcast, like come up with come up with topics, try to
Mm-hmm.
figure it out. Maybe it doesn't work, try this, try that, like get a dinosaur Halloween costume, see what happens. If you make people laugh, you make people laugh. If you don't, you send it back to Amazon. Like, it's just, you know what I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
like getting pants off Amazon because none of the other pants fit, or whatever
Mm-hmm.
it is. It's like, try it, try it, try it, fail, fail, fail.
Mm-hmm.
uh, and there's so much learning that comes from failing, man.
Yeah. I mean, like earlier today, I was working at like a remodel house, and basically the crawl space, the side walls are all messed up. So we had to replace the side walls, and there was blocks for foundation that we had to take out and whatnot. And there was a water spigot on one of the pieces of plywood. So you had to cut the plywood so the water spigot got out. And I didn't even think about it. So I started using my Sawzall, and I was cutting, and I had it's called a demolition blade. It's for metal, and it's like for if you're cutting 2x4s with nails or something. so it would cut through the nails and the 2x4. So I was cutting the plywood and I cut the water spigot. And luckily, it had like this. I don't even know. I cut into the actual pipe for where the water was, but it had this anti-freeze thing on it, so the water wasn't actually in it, and it was in the PVC before it, so water didn't start spewing out or anything. But it's like, man, I'll definitely remember not to do that next time, just to get a wood blade and not cut through metal. But yeah, it's just like failing is you're gonna remember your failures so much more than you're gonna remember just doing something correct, and that
No, that's a
obviously.
great example. So in the property management industry, so let's say you guys have an issue at your apartment, right? And you have a maintenance guy that comes out to the property. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you submit a service request.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this week we had somebody who was, let's say, Ashley comes over to your house, our sister, and you guys are gone, and she calls maintenance and say, "Hey, there's something going on." Well, Ashley's not a leaseholder, so she
Mm-hmm.
cannot submit a maintenance request. And so I made the mistake where I didn't really ask the person what apartment they were, and I didn't check and see if they were on the lease, and I submitted a service request, and it's like, well, you can't do that, which I knew better. I just didn't take the time to look it
Mm-hmm.
up because like this person's calling. How are they there? I don't
Right.
see like that they have any guests, and so it was just like, okay, well, I mean, just got to make sure because you're taking on more liabilities when you do something like that.
Yeah.
And one of our guys opening up an apartment that they never were really granted access to by a
Yeah.
leaseholder can create issues, especially if
Yeah.
something comes up missing, or anything like that. It's just not good.
Mm-hmm. That's the way you learn. Is
Yeah.
you're like, oh wow, that was a stupid thing, but next time you'll be like, okay, this person's not on the lease. I'm not gonna grant them access to a service request or whatever. I mean, yeah, it's just failing is the best teacher. There, you remember you remember your great successes where if you do something extraordinary, you're going to remember it. But if you just do something mediocre or good enough to get by, you're not really going to learn from that experience. But if you fail and make a scene of how stupid you were, you're gonna remember that. Like if you do something stupid in front of a bunch of people, you're gonna remember that a lot more. So yeah,
Yeah, it's not just remember it, but learning from it, right?
yeah, yeah,
Sometimes it's not good to remember the mistakes
yeah.
because sometimes those can be debilitating if
Right.
they just sit there and ruminate with us.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, but it's been a few episodes ago where we were talking about like how I've always been asking questions, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
think sometimes it's a very I don't know. It seems like I can bother some of our siblings and get very frustrated with it. And as I was sitting in this time of maybe self reflection and trying to find purpose in life, I started realizing that one of the big reasons I ask questions is because by asking questions, I can know people deeper. And for me, one of the greatest gestures of love that someone can give me is that they know me well enough to know they know almost everything about me. They know my quirks. They know my strengths,
Mm-hmm.
and that while they know all my weaknesses, that those weaknesses that they could use to turn against me and to torment me, they will take those weaknesses and they will use them in humor to be able to bring me joy and happiness. And that's something that brings me so much fulfillment that someone has taken the time to get to know me so deeply, to love me so much to where they can create jokes and humor out of the things that they see with me. It just, man, dude, that's something that's really, really powerful to me. And it really has helped develop every single deep friendship that I've ever had is when someone has taken the time to get to know me to that level to where they can add humor. I love it when like people pick on me to a point of where we can both laugh together about those things.
Yeah, yeah. That's yeah. That's I don't know. Some of those are just the best moments where it's like they know they know what you're thinking or what you're gonna say in a certain situation, and they're just looking at you like, "What's going on here?" And you just look at each other and you're like, Yeah, I know. But yeah, just being able to make fun of you, but not in a way that's like making fun of you and it's making you mad, but just making fun of you to the point where they know they can push their limits and you're not going to get mad, but you can still have a good laugh about it. And just, I don't know, making fun of things in life in general together. It's just like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. We like to go people watching a lot of the time where it's like somebody doesn't even have to necessarily do anything, but it's just like, look at that guy right there. It's like, what do you think he's thinking? And we create this like conversation between the two people, and we don't know what they're saying. And it's just like it gets out of control, and it's like they start fighting, and they start, never mind, never mind. And then I don't know, we just make up funny conversations, and it's just like I don't know, it's just the little things. It's I think that's the most fun stuff.
No, that's interesting because on vacation I pulled a prank, and that prank kind of went through to on some of the people, and like me and Isaac weren't there, but we continued to just further that strength to where we just kept laughing and laughing about it. Where we were like, "Oh, well, he probably did this," and yeah, and then she was probably like, "Ugh," and then we were just
Yeah.
kind of like making all of these personality gestures and emotions of how well we know our family members and what
Yeah.
they probably did, to
Yeah.
where we were laughing about like how much that would do this, and none of this even happened,
Yeah.
but it was creating laughter and humor inside of us because it was just hilarious with all the creativity that we were able to come up with.
Yeah, it's just like creating those funny scenarios. It's just, have you ever, do you know who Tim Robinson is?
I don't think so.
He's like, I don't know if he's a comedian or whatever, but he's an actor. And there's a show called Detroiters that him and another guy are like the main people of. And my wife and I were watching this show over the past week, and I think we binged it in like a day or 2 days or something. There's like 2 seasons, and the episodes are like 20 minutes, but it's just like such off the wall stuff where it's just like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's just like, it reminds us of the conversations that we make up. Like if we see somebody walking down the street and we just make up a conversation for that guy, or we make up something that's going on in that guy's life or where he's going, it's like that's the stuff that happens in the show. Like there's he's another show of his is I Think You Should Leave, and one of the episodes is all about like this this hot dog car. It's like a car that sells hot dogs or whatever. It crashes into a building and everybody's looking around like, where the hell did that hot dog car come from? And Tim Robinson is like, he's like inching into the room, like dressed up in a hot dog costume, and he's like, "Yeah, what the hell? Who did that?" But and then it ended up not being him, and it was just the series of events that happened was just it's just a situation we would make up, you know.
So
It's
this was
just
like a prank that happened.
no, it's like a show on Netflix. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's just
Well, that's like these interesting stories that we come like. I don't know how you feel about this, but one of the funniest things that I think I've ever seen in person is when me and you were at Cedar Lake Golf
when that
Course,
guy ran
and
into a
we were
tree.
yes,
Yeah.
like we were sitting on the putting green, and it was somebody who I went to high school with, and he was coming down a fairway from another hole. He's like, "Hey, Chad," and I started waving at him, and I looked, and he's just kind of looking at me, and then there's this like huge oak tree like within 5 feet of him, and I just saw him smoking. He goes, and he's like, really, oh, and me and Jay, I was just like, holy crap! But it's like, it's not that I'm making fun of him, but just seeing that happen, how it happened, and how funny it was
Yeah.
to just see somebody absolutely smoke a tree with a golf cart, and then
Yeah.
he'd wrecked the golf cart so bad to where the steering column was jacked up to
It
where it
was
would only go in
broken.
circles. So
Yeah.
we had to like pull him around and pick it up and pull him because he couldn't get back to the clubhouse by himself.
Yeah, it's like we're not laughing at the guy, but it's just the situation is like if you were to tell somebody this, it's like what? Like you just watch him run into a tree because he was waving at you, and it's just the situation is hilarious.
Yeah, I mean that happening just in real life, it was just like,
It's like
oh my
something
gosh. I
from
mean,
a
I don't.
show. It's like something that would happen in
Yeah,
a show. Yeah.
right. And it's like that one time that we were coming back from the toll road. So in Sturgis, Michigan, there's a toll road, and in order to get out, they used to have this ticket system where you would have to put a ticket in, and then you would put in cash. And then there was this older gentleman out in front of our car who was just really struggling with the machine. He's swearing at it, and
Yeah.
and Isaac started honking the horn, and we're all sitting there laughing. And the guy goes, "Oh, what the?"
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, shut up!"
he,
Then he
he
looks back at the machine. He's like, "Oh, what the?"
yeah.
Fuck?
He was just so flustered to
Yeah.
where he was telling us to shut up, but he was yelling out loud to
Yeah.
himself because he was like still yelling at us, but also
Yeah.
pissed off at the
Yeah.
machine. And we were just sitting there busting up laughing because it's just it's so funny sometimes how like maybe these stressful moments
Yeah.
when in the grand scheme of things it's like, yeah, okay, at some point he'll get to it, hopefully he'll get some help, and we're
Yeah.
waiting. It's not like we're in any hurry or anything
Yeah.
like that. Now if there would have been an ambulance or a fire truck, like that would have really
Yeah.
been a huge stressor, I'm sure, for him.
Oh
But it was
yeah.
just like these some of these funny moments are just, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like I don't know, it's just moments out of like if you were in a writer's room and just writing like funny scenarios that could happen. It's like when it does happen, that's when it's the funniest. It's like I don't know, those are just the good moments where you just sit there and you gotta laugh at it. And even though somebody's maybe the butt end of the joke, just to sit down and laugh at yourself and be like, okay, yeah, that I can see from that person's perspective that was probably pretty funny.
Right. Or I mean, it's there's so many easy ways to create that laughter. Like, I mean, if we're going out in public and we're all wearing hot dog costumes, like
Yeah.
that's just funny as it is. So the more things like you play baseball, you play basketball, you do this in a hot dog
Yeah.
costume. Or I don't know if you've seen those blow up dinosaur costumes
Uh-huh.
where like you're pretty much fully enclosed and like pretty much no matter how you run, it's just
Yeah.
hilarious
Yeah.
because and then you fall over like it's just going to create laughter
Yeah.
because it looks so funny, like how you're running and what's happening and what you can do. It's just when you create those moments or you put yourself in those head places or those better scenarios, it's the odds of creating enjoyment and happiness are, I think, so much more easy.
Yeah. I think to a certain extent, it's like seeing a guy in the hot dog costume is funny, but then when you start to think about it, it's like, okay, that guy was so dedicated that he went out, bought a hot dog costume, had the dedication to take time out of his day to dress up as a hot dog costume, get the people around him to dress up in a hot dog costume, and just go walk around. It's like that person really did that all for just walking down the street, you know? And it just makes it even more complex. And it's like,
Right, but do you realize like us four brothers, like we could get those and go walk around Sturgis and like how much fun we could just
yeah,
have, like going up
yeah,
against a pole or
yeah,
dancing on the street or whatever, like doing this, like we would make people laugh, we would
yeah,
make ourselves laugh, and it would just
yeah,
like it's hilarious.
yeah. Just to take the things that are like just so off the wall, and it's like, why would anybody do that? And it's just to take that and be like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do that, or just to,
And you bring up a really good point about dedication, and that sometimes the things that we create humor in, like for example, at the old building, there were these pilots, and every single night, dude, all they would do was sit around and talk about aviation. And I was just like, will you guys shut the hell up? Like, I've heard so much about aviation. Can we
yeah,
please talk about something else? Like, this is so old. And I would make fun of them about it. But in reality, I really appreciated their dedication to that field, that all of them were going to school, they were working hard, and they were showing their dedication by applying it to their language in order to increase their vocabulary and to continue to learn. That's all they did was they talked and they talked and they talked about it. That's the same way with someone who's practicing baseball. Like they live, eat, and breathe baseball, and that dedication, while sometimes it's funny and it's humorous, uh, you can appreciate that dedication.
Mm-hmm. No matter what it is, it's a like I said before, it's if somebody's passionate about something and they start telling you about it or talking about it or whatever, you can sense that passion in them, and it's easy to become interested in what they're pursuing just because you can tell how into it they are. And so it's like, okay, that's pretty cool. I would like to know more about this. Then you ask questions, and then it gets you interested in it. And then it's like, okay, maybe I want to fly a plane, or maybe you don't, and you're just interested in what people are interested in. It's like this is taking up this person's time, so why what makes it so interesting to this person to take up that much of their time and to the point where they want to talk about it and nothing else? Like it has to be something truly interesting.
Right. And so like for me, it's just like, okay, I'm gonna ask questions and I'm gonna learn. And then at some point that's gonna be able to be like, oh, I, how's Mr. Pilot doing today? Or whatever,
Yeah,
you know what
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean? You know, you hit any birds today, or
Yeah.
it looks like you landed today.
Yeah.
You passed the landing. So
Yeah.
see, you know what I mean? But it's like
Yeah.
it's that I've learned something, I've applied it to humor, and it's the ability to be able, to just help with that.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about like, creating value and having purpose, are there any things previously that you had done where you felt like you added a lot of value to society or to the world, or that gave you a sense of purpose?
Mm, I don't know. Not really anything that I can think of. I guess adding something to society, something influencing society or influencing the world or whatever. I guess that was never really one of my main priorities. It was just kind of, I don't know, I was always kind of focused on do what you love. I almost had to sneeze. But just focusing on, man, I keep having to sneeze. But it's just, like I said, focusing on what you love and trying to take that and see how you can influence people, not even necessarily on a major scale, just those people who are around you every day, just try to, I don't know, do something with that and try to make their lives better. I guess it's always a goal for people to influence the world and whatnot, but I don't know. You can always influence people in your everyday life. It doesn't have to be necessarily on such a wide scale. You don't have to have 100 million followers or whatever. You don't have to be a professional. You don't have to. You come in contact with people every single day. How do you make those people's lives better? That's what really matters. You could be on social media posting all this stuff and people reacting to it and people commenting, but it's like how much of those people actually how much impact did you actually have on those people's lives? How many of those people are going to comment on 1,000 people's posts today and they don't really have any impact on their life? But if you do something for somebody in your personal life, it's like I don't know if it's Valentine's Day and you know somebody who's never gotten flowers before or never has a Valentine card, just like giving them a couple flowers. It's like that person would take a step back and be like, "Whoa, this person cares enough about me to do that." It's just creating special moments like that and just impacting the
Yeah.
people that you can impact rather than trying to do too much, I guess.
And I think it's really important when there are people that impact us in our lives that we take the time to share our appreciation and our gratitude for that. I think oftentimes those are the things that we can really miss out on, to where sometimes people who could be really good role models or they do a lot, they don't really realize what impact or what purpose they've had on other people, because sometimes we get so busy, we get so worked up, and we assume that these people who maybe are extraordinary just know.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes those people don't, and they don't get sometimes the gratitude or the appreciation that sometimes they deserve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's another thing. It's like I don't know, just having conversations with the people that you love, and it's like after dad passed away, it was like within a couple days or something. I went over to my friend's house and I was like if I died tomorrow, what would you regret not saying to me? And we just had a conversation about stuff like that. And it's like, uh, I hope you realize the impact that you've had on my life this far and how much you mean to me and just stuff like that. It's like, if I died tomorrow, what would you wish you said? And I said that to him, and he took a while to think about it. But it's just like, just showing appreciation. I think is so huge, especially for, I don't know, people who do so much for a lot of people, but the response is they're never showed enough appreciation, and where they know they're doing good, but they don't feel the impact on the inverse side of it, I guess.
Mm.
But yeah.
You know, when I was thinking about the purpose and the things that I found purpose in, I think I shared is that baseball really brought me that. And I felt like value. And the one thing with baseball is that it never really felt like it was effort. And so many times when I've been at the gym and later in life, when I hear people talking about their, their college careers or their short-lived professional careers, they're so glad that it's over.
Hmm.
And it just blows my mind to hear people say that, because for me, baseball and golf, like when I was working hard, it never felt monotonous. It
Mm-hmm.
always was fun. It was always enjoyable. I always wanted to be out there. If it was 5, 6 hours out there hitting baseballs at high school, it was always fun. And I was
Mm-hmm.
always enjoying that process of getting better. And so I started thinking, like, why is that? Why is it so monotonous to other people? And a few episodes ago, we started talking about dreams. And I think that one of the reasons that it never felt monotonous to me was because when I was out there practicing, I was always creating dreams and I was always creating games. And that I made it like I was in the World Series or that
Mm-hmm.
it was the high school state championship game. And each pitch, even though I only had maybe 10 seconds to reset my mind, is that I was always playing a game where I was always trying to create that pressure or to create that moment of what it would feel like to hit the game-winning home run or the
Mm-hmm.
World Series. Or I remember basketball, like out at grandpa's or anytime. I think a lot of people experience when they're playing basketball, they're out there in the driveway, they're like, here comes the car, all right,
Yeah.
yeah, switched it. I bet they saw that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you want the people driving by, they're like, and then you go in their mind like, oh wow, that kid's real good. Did you
Yeah.
did you see him shoot that shot? Oh man, he just made that 3-pointer for me. You're
Yeah.
creating all these stories that these people who just
Yeah.
drove by, who probably weren't even paying attention
No,
to
yeah.
you, like saw. And it was just like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, all right, if I make this shot, I'm gonna be go in the NBA.
Yep.
Brick. It's like,
Nice.
oh,
Yep.
okay. Well, if I make this shot, then I'm gonna go to the NBA. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And you
Yeah.
just you just keep doing it, and it's like, oh yeah, yeah, I made it to the. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just creating those games, and I don't know if that comes from just being able to have a very creative mind or what, but it just amazed me that I was able to create that through baseball. Like in the job that I'm currently at, like it's not like oh yeah, I'm gonna show this tour like how sweet
Yeah.
this place is. Like
Yeah.
it's just like
Yeah.
this is like but so monotonous. It's like
Yeah.
okay. Do you like this place? If you do, great. If you don't, I
Get out of
don't
here.
care. Like,
Yeah.
go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, but when I can connect with someone and we share the same interest on the tour, that can be enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
But it just makes me realize it's just like, this just, I don't know. Like, there's some people who can just have jobs and maybe they can live their whole life and they can go through the motions and they can be satisfied with it. But it just doesn't fit my personality. Like, I got to be active. I got to be able to create laughter, be around friends. Maybe we're in a warehouse just driving forklifts back and forth or whatever. There
Yeah.
has to be more laughter where we're creating more games and just
Mm-hmm.
more enjoyment. And I think a lot of that also comes from the desire to want to have children. And I think, having children would bring me a lot of purpose. I remember when you were young that I felt a lot of purpose being able to, practice sports with you, like, because
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I was able to teach, like
Mm-hmm.
I was able to teach and help you learn something that you didn't know, and then we work on this and we work on that, and it was like each week there was a certain amount of progress, or there was something new, like there's the next game, or there's the next
Mm-hmm.
series, or there's the next year. And whenever you have that, it's really cool to see that development of children. I know that they grow up really quick, uh, but I think that's part of the process of each week being able to discover something new. Maybe they go from walking to talking to have losing their first tooth. It's those experiences
Mm-hmm.
that seem like very purposeful.
Yeah, and I think with kids especially, it's their minds are so malleable that you can you can teach them so much in such a short period of time to where they don't have this predisposition of this has to be this and this has to be that. Whereas you can teach them something completely new and they're like, whoa, I never even thought about anything like that. And then you see them actually put that into practice and see how it affects them. And yeah, it's just cool to see. And like you were saying with the sports and whatnot, creating the little games in your head and whatnot. I remember being in Sam's backyard and we'd just be on the couch and we'd be like, you want to go play catch in the backyard or something? And we'd go out and we'd start playing catch and start playing catch, and then I'd throw him a one hopper and be like, oh, you got to scoop it, or it's like, and then we would turn it into I was the Yankees and he was the Tigers, and then I'd throw a ground ball to him, and if he missed it, then I won the World Series, or just stuff like that, and creating games like that, and it makes the would be monotonous stuff a little bit more fun. And just we I don't know, growing up we always created games with like everything that we did. It was just kind of how we were raised, I guess. Like
It
so
was that sense of play.
yeah, yeah.
Like, and I don't know how people lose that, because that sense of play is still something that's so,
Mhm.
desirable. Dude, I've actually thought about like trying to go back out on the baseball field, and like just trying to go play baseball, because I've been doing such a great job with my fitness regimen and my health and my wellness, where I feel better now than I felt at 30.
Yeah.
And I I don't feel like I would get hurt. Like, there's not the fear of getting hurt that I had when I was 30. Oh, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. And
Mhm.
it's just like, man, like, what would it be like to just be able to get back out there, to go run down some pop flies, to be able
Oh
to
yeah.
hear the ball come off of a baseball bat, to hit another home run? Like,
Yeah.
that's just one thing, that hitting the home run and just like watching it, and then just that however many seconds it is, just to
Mhm.
like walk around the bases and to
Yeah.
like, it's just your time and that's
Right.
it.
Everybody saw that. You know everybody saw that. And you're just
Yeah.
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 But yeah, like I was saying with all day baseball, it was like I didn't realize how much that I missed baseball, dude. Just going out there and it's like they're not I mean, they're putting a little bit of mustard on it, but it's not they're not getting in the wind up and throwing 80 miles an hour at you. I mean, it's just lob toss or whatever. It's just baseball, and you just go out there. And I was having fun during the home run derby, dude. I was out there diving for balls and everything, and everybody else is sitting there, sitting in circles talking, and I'm out there just jumping up and diving. And it's like, who is that out there? And it's like, oh, yep. And it's just like, I don't know, it's just so fun to me. And like I said, when I came home from that, I was literally dreaming of playing baseball at like second base, and there was a line drive, and I had to go like this, and then I woke up and I was going, my wife's like, "What was that?" I was like, "Oh, I was dreaming of playing baseball." And dude, it's just so much fun. Like I was looking into like men's leagues where they have like men's baseball leagues. I was looking into getting in one of those, but there aren't really. I didn't find any in the area. There's some in Indianapolis, I guess, but yeah, I'm sure there's men's leagues down there by you for sure. But
I know that there's some in Kalamazoo. I
okay,
would assume South Bend has them for you, but
oh
yeah,
okay, yeah, but dude,
probably not anywhere where you currently are in your current location.
right. But dude, it was just so much fun. Even if it was just going out there and taking outfield during home run derby, I had so much fun doing that. And it was
Yeah, I
just
mean, I used to love, like, in college, just out batting practice, just running down fly balls,
Yeah.
diving for stuff, making catches, which that's why one of the reasons I loved about outfield. Unfortunately, when you usually get at the higher levels, there's not as many balls hitting the outfield.
Yeah.
So batting practice is the one way where it's just bing, bing,
Yeah.
bing, bing, bing. Like that's the one time where you can
Yeah.
go out and really practice
Yeah.
diving at balls and really get in a lot of reps.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's just that sense of, I don't know, baseball's just always kind of been that thing where it's no matter what you're doing, it's always just fun.
well, and it's also just, I think it's important for us as men to have things to be competitive with, to be able to win things, to be able to continue to grow and to progress and to better ourselves, whether it's personally or athletically. It's just, I think that's, as warriors, wartime or whatever it was, it's what
Mm-hmm.
we're built to do, is to build. There's to to compete, to be strong, and to try to dominate.
Right.
And like, it's just like the only way you do that is by getting better and continuing to do things.
Yeah. And that's another thing with all day baseball. It was like at the end at the end of the day or whatever, it started at 10 and then the last game was at 10 and then the nightcap was two of the uh two of the brothers against each other as captains and they would pick their team and then every year they're going to do that and keep record and it's just that competition of I'm going to beat you this year. It's just talking back and forth and yeah, like you said, just having that sense of competitiveness and being able to prove what you are that way or just I don't know, just going home at the end of the day and all the wives being like yeah, they were all super into that, but it's just like yeah, it may be just lob toss baseball, but it's like it means something, you know? You take pride in it. It's just like I don't know, it takes you back a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, it takes you back to something that was special, that camaraderie,
Mhm.
that competitiveness that has always been there. It still always will live in there. Maybe it transfers over to a new sport as you grow older because you can't play the other one anymore. But yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's always there.
Yeah. That's why for that's why I went to all day baseball this year and I wasn't really sure what to expect. So I went at like 1 p.m. and it started at 10 a.m. and then I got there and I was like, "Oh, dude, I should have came at 10 a.m. Like I should have been here all day long." And that's why literally right after we got home, I texted you. I was like, "Dude, do you want to come to all day baseball next year? Because that was a lot of fun." And it's just I don't know. I know we would have had so much fun out there. It was yeah, I don't know. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And I don't know what else there is that just brings that purpose, that desire, like sports. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like there's really anything else that's comparable, because one, it's going out and getting exercise, so you're releasing dopamine, you're
Mm-hmm.
competing. If you're on a team, that's where I think golf can kind of get a little bit difficult, because there's not the team atmosphere unless you have like a swing coach or anything like that. It's just all for yourself, so you don't really have somebody there. Like, I don't know, baseball, it was cool because you could chatter at each other and be like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, nice catch, Jake. Yeah, nice swing on that one." You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So like, there's laughter that comes from it, humor.
Yeah. Or like just during baseball, we'd have just stupid sayings. Like if somebody was if Sam and I were in the field, like I was playing shortstop and he was playing center field and the pitcher throws a fastball and the guy swings late and Sam would go, "Catch up, mustard." It would just be like just stupid stuff like that. And it's just the camaraderie that comes from that is just funny. And yeah.
Yeah, there's deep roots when you go in with a group of people, men, and you win at something, and you get through something too. I think it's not only winning, but going through difficult things,
Mm-hmm.
tough times. I think that's why war soldiers, the police force, firefighters, uh, there's a special bond between those types of people. And I think sometimes as we go deeper into society and we're just out in the normal world, that we don't have that camaraderie as much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just going back to like with sports, just going back to that team every day or every week or whatever. and just going through those moments together and just shared experiences in general is so important, I think. And that's kind of what sports brings out. It's just there's so many memories to go back on, and while you're making new memories, you can talk about old memories, or just you already have that chemistry between each other. So, yeah, I think that's just one of the main things that I liked about sports, I guess, and just the
Yeah.
sports in general.
And I think a lot of the same things that we're talking about with the memories of sports, the going back and the thinking, I think that in order to find purpose in life, in order to try to figure out value, to figure out how you progress, where you go, how you get out of that stuck spot that you're currently in, where maybe you feel overwhelmed, maybe you feel that you're not worth much. Maybe it's you go out and you hit a bucket of golf balls. Maybe you go out and play baseball, or try to go ask somebody if you can play catch. Or maybe you go try to coach a friend's baseball team,
Mm-hmm.
kids team or something like that, to try to create that laughter. Maybe you go out and you donate your time somewhere, but I would always suggest doing something you love, that you've
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed doing. I know for me it was difficult to kind of go to like a homeless shelter and just like serve food. I felt like it was helpful, but it wasn't me giving the best of my abilities and my skills. Where I felt more so, if I could go out and teach you something or help you
Mm-hmm.
with something, that was much more beneficial. Or if I could be a listening ear to someone who was maybe hurting, and they had questions, that I have so much more to give from that than just being the robot there
Mm-hmm.
serving food or making food. And while it seemed like it had a purpose to be able to help, it just it
Right.
didn't bring me much fulfillment.
Yeah, and that's just like another thing is you always I guess not everybody, but I always ask myself is like, okay, what is my purpose here? Like I've always felt like baseball has just been it has to be something with baseball. If it's not professional baseball, what is it? Is it coaching baseball? Is it teaching kids how to play baseball, how to have fun with baseball? Is it just donating my time that way? Is cuz I mean, if that's what you're doing, it's not really donating your time. It's just investing in what you love doing and like influencing people. At the end of the day, if you feel like you have a purpose in some specific category, just influence people that way. If you know so much about baseball, or if you know so much about art, or if you know anything, it's just being able to impact people. And I think that just makes it feel even better. It's like, okay, I feel like my purpose here is to do something with baseball, so I have to do it. And just being able to do that, it just makes it feel so much better rather than going and doing something that was so I don't know, maybe you are passionate about going and serving homeless people because you've been homeless before and you got out of that. So maybe that's something that's super impactful to you. But
Yeah.
maybe not everybody. So everybody's got to find their I don't know, their thing that they enjoy.
Yeah, 100% could be for someone. I'm just saying that it wasn't
Right. No, yeah.
so much for me. And I'm not saying that you weren't saying that. Um, but I don't remember where I was going with that.
Yeah. So I guess we never mentioned this episode, but the first tone we did, this is the first episode where we're doing video and it'll be up on YouTube. And so you can watch it there, which is pretty
You guys will be
exciting.
able to see our bright, smiling faces.
Mm-hmm. Figure out a couple technical things going on. Had a couple hiccups throughout the episode, but we'll get it narrowed down and packed down tight.
Yep.
Yep.
Sure will for future episodes.
Yep. Got the cameras out before number 10.
There we go.
Big steps.
No, but yeah, no, I really appreciate you taking the time. Like I said, this was somewhat of a difficult week, just getting in my own head. And I have to try to realize the importance of who I am and what I can do and my abilities, instead of dwelling on the things of where I'm at, the loneliness that I feel, the sadness that comes from that. the lack of fulfillment and purpose that I feel like I have, and to continue to progress. I mean, it's, sometimes you'll sit in it for 10 minutes. Sometimes I'll sit in it for 2 hours. Sometimes I've sat in it for, a day. What's great is that in the last 11 months, those times have continued to dwindle down, where this is the first episode of that I've had in, quite some time. But sometimes I question myself if that's because I've gotten too busy. And I've tried to distract myself with other things going on. Um, and so this week, it was more of sitting back, and like this weekend, I'm really going to try to sit by myself and ask some deeper questions, because I don't want to get too busy to
Mm-hmm.
where Chad isn't helping himself figure out where he wants to go and what he wants to do, and creating actionable items to how I can get there. Now, when it comes to friends and loved ones and those types of things, sometimes it's about finding those people, and there's no real good strategy to being able to find people that you jive with,
Mm-hmm.
or that understand you, or have the same moral standard than you. But it is going back to high school and just putting yourself out there over and over and over again. I hate rejection. I don't like being rejected. It's probably one of my biggest fears in life. So it's not a lot of fun. And sometimes it can be overwhelming. So I take it one stride at a time. Like if I get, seemingly rejected 5 or 6 times in a row, take a little bit of a breather, take a little bit of a break, and don't just
Mm-hmm.
keep getting pounded on,
Yeah. Yeah.
like that. But continue to have those conversations, and maybe go to a new place. Maybe it's not the gym, maybe it's the beach, maybe it's going to play volleyball, maybe it's trying to go to play baseball, or whatever it is. Um, but it seems like in society, connections are really, really important, and it's connections that be able to help have conversations like this, where you can help to just I don't know, feel valued.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it's very easy in those times when you feel lonely. It's, I guess, when I was at my saddest times, it was I had so many people around me, but it still just felt lonely. Like I would come home and be like, "Oh man." Like there's just like that pit in your stomach almost, and it's just you feel lonely to the point where I don't want to bother anybody. I don't want to, I don't know, you don't want to be a nuisance to anybody because you don't feel great with yourself. So why would you take that and put that on somebody else? So it's just like you come home and you sit in your room and you just, I don't know, it's rough. Yeah.
What is it that you think makes us feel like a nuisance? Because for me, I feel like if I just sit at home and I do that, then I just get deeper and deeper and
Yeah.
deeper, to where I have to try to talk to somebody. I have to try to share it with somebody. Maybe it's crying, maybe it's looking like a fool, maybe it is. But for Chad to like feel better, it's something that I just have to do. And if I don't do it and sitting at home, it's not gonna be good.
Yeah. I mean, it's just I don't know. I think a lot of it comes from how you're feeling with yourself at the time. Like I said, I don't know. I guess my mindset is if I don't like being around me, why would anybody else like being around me right now? So I'm just gonna kind of keep to myself and not express that out into the world. Like why would I bring anybody else's day down when their day could be going a lot better? Or I don't know, I guess I never looked at it like how could I make the day better for me? It was always kind of the inverse of how do I make sure I don't bring anybody else's day down? I don't know.
Hmm. That's interesting, because for me, in order to get out of the funk, I have to just be able to share things. But that's where I go back to, you have to have somebody who isn't going to like just throw you off, and not listen or anything like that. So that's why this podcast episode, even though we were planning something else, it was important for me to be able to do this here, because I didn't really have anyone else to go to. So, to say thank you to you for that, I really appreciate you taking the time to be able to sit and listen. And I think for all the listeners out there, for us to just be able to be vulnerable, I think it's something that's important in life. And we're hoping in the future, you know, to be able to have more of this, hopefully a little bit more clear and concise. I know that
Yeah.
sometimes I do a lot of rambling on and on about stuff, and you guys are probably like, "What the hell? Get on with this episode."
Right.
Um,
I think
yeah,
rambling sometimes is my favorite parts of the episodes. I don't know, it just depends. Sometimes you have a specific topic you want to talk about, and people like hearing about that, but they like the conversation to progress. And then sometimes the derailments of conversation is the most exciting part sometimes. So I don't know, it's a good combination of the two, I guess I would say.
that's interesting because Jordan Peterson, I'll listen to some of his podcasts, and I like when he's straight and to the point and concise because I can learn a whole bunch. When he starts going off on these tangents and like it's just like, okay, I'm done with this one. Like, no, I don't want to hear about all these other things that you're not an expert on
Yeah.
because I can find all those from someone else. So it's like, so it's again a different, interesting how our personalities and what we enjoy are much different.
Yeah. I guess I like.
So in this episode, you got anything to share? You got a story to share?
Oh, I shared a story last week. I thought. I think it's
You
your turn.
did?
Yeah, it's your turn to share a
Okay.
story.
So I would say this week, my story was probably when I was about 14 years old, 13, 14. Again, it has to do with driving in the truck, dad taking us to a baseball game. I think we were playing Hillsdale or Homer in Michigan. And at the time, I had a girlfriend. So I must have been either eighth grade or ninth grade. And so we were all three sitting in the front truck, and we're driving by a golf course. And this year, and a golf ball. Somebody hit a golf ball,
What?
and Dad drove it like it busted the window. And Dad was swearing. He's like, "What the hell? What the hell was that?" And he's like, and I think either that's those SOBs. And so Dad drives up. He goes parks in the golf course. He hops on a golf cart and he goes and drives all the way out to the tee box that these guys were on. He's like, which one of you hit my car? And they're like, oh, I don't know. And Dad came back sharing the story. He's like, yeah, the idiots. They said it was an act of God. Like, like did God hold the golf club for you? Was God swinging the golf club? I don't think God would have hit that shot like that.
Yeah.
But oh man, he was fired up. So it was like the Ace Ventura Pet Detective. You ever see that one where he's got like
Oh
his head out
yeah.
the window? So
Yeah. Yeah.
we drove to the game and then back from the game.
It was like on his side. The golf
It
ball
was
hit on his
more.
side.
It was more like more towards the middle,
Oh, so it fractured like
but
all of it.
it cracked. Yeah, there. I mean,
Oh.
so it was a huge like like almost like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
baseball that expanded, but then
Yeah.
the cracks went pretty much
Oh
all the way out. So it was somewhat difficult to see throughout the whole window. So
yeah,
where
I'm
he was having
sure.
to drive, it wasn't as exaggerated as Ace Ventura, but yeah, he
Yeah.
had to kind of be driving a little bit like that to be able to have a good view.
Lucky it wasn't raining or snowing or anything.
Yeah. Well, you don't play baseball in the snow, but
Yeah. Well, you never
yeah,
know.
rain. Yeah, rain would not
That would
have.
have been rough.
Yeah.
That's
But
funny.
he was fired up about it, and it was always good. It was always fun to see Dad fired up about something
Oh
because
yeah.
he gets super agitated and frustrated.
I'm sure that
So.
wasn't embarrassing at all in front of your girlfriend or anything, right?
No, not. I mean, it was more like scary, dude. Like it was just
Yeah.
like wow,
Yeah.
just to see something like that happen. It's like
You always think about stuff like that when you're on the golf course. It's like, oh, I really don't want to hit it on the road and hit a car. But it's like you never see it happen. So
right, yeah,
yeah,
it like never happens.
yeah, that's funny. I never knew that.
You did it?
I've never heard that
Oh
story.
wow, yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
So there you go.
There you go.
But
Episode number 9.
anything else to share?
Um, I don't think so. Did you want to do what we learned this week? Did you learn anything this week?
No, I mean, I think most of what this episode was about was trying to find my purpose, sitting, asking myself deeper questions as I continue to go through this journey. It's important to uh, find people who know how to ask the right questions, to be there, to sit, to listen, to not feel like they have to give advice, and to just be able to help you be able to work through whatever issue or difficulty you're going through, but also being able to be able to ask yourself these things and work through them yourself. So
Yeah. I'd say that's pretty good.
yeah.
That's a good place to wrap, I think.
All right. Thanks for joining us, guys. We appreciate doing these, and one more episode to double digits.
No,
We're
one
excited.
more. See you later, everybody.